What's up, friends? I've been using the Pixel Watch 4 for 30 days, and there's one feature on this smartwatch that I believe truly makes it game changing. The first thing we're going to be talking about is what we always look at, the screen. Google is using, as it says, a first of its kind actual 360 display, which essentially is making it about 10% larger and 50% brighter. The durable domed display offers edge-to-edge Corning Gorilla Glass with a larger active area and 3000 nits of brightness. This is going to be a huge upgrade in terms of brightness compared to last year's Pixel Watch 3, which only had 2000 nits of brightness. So if you typically work out outdoors or doing any type of outdoor activities where you have harsh lighting, the Pixel Watch 4 is going to be very beneficial for those tasks. But with the new dome display, it creates a unique experience paired with slimmer bezels. It truly feels like the screen has depth that just has not been replicated on any device. While you can physically feel the difference as you swipe around the screen, if you haven't experienced it, I highly recommend you to go check it out in store. It does feel like you're swiping your finger across a bubble, and it's very unique and it does feel very premium. It also complements a lot of watch faces and the interface as well as you're swiping around, just because the screen is physically flowing around that display, and it just gives a cool experience all around. And coming from last year's Pixel Watch 3, you can physically feel the difference between the two. It does make it slightly thicker, but it's not something that you would typically notice in a day-to-day usage. So in terms of performance, Google is using the new Snapdragon W5 Gen 2 chip for better performance and more efficiency. Google said something along the lines of you're getting 50% faster performance and 50% better efficiency on the watch in general. But there are some exclusive features at the moment, with no telling if they'll be rolled into the previous watches, that I do want to go over since they're currently an exclusive on the Pixel Watch 4 as of now. That being said, we do have a more advanced feature of smart replies. So before, smart replies were pretty generic on the Pixel Watch 3. It simply gave you the simple yes, no, haha, okay, yes, sure. Now they've become a little bit more in depth with the reply and having a little bit more contextual information regarding the conversation. I did find it a little bit more useful considering that there's more actions to choose from. For example, on the Pixel Watch 3, you would have 3 replies where it would be yes, no, or sure. Versus on the Pixel Watch 4, there's actually so many options that you can physically tap more, and there will be more options to choose from. And I've already seen myself using it quite a couple times, so therefore I am going to give it a thumbs up in that scenario. Secondly, this is one of the features that I've been fiending for on a different watch, and it is the auto track workouts. To my understanding, the only watch that had auto tracking workouts has been the Samsung with its Galaxy wearable lineup. Google and Apple have always suggested to do a workout when it's detected potential activity, but now with the Pixel Watch 4 series, it automatically does it on its own as well. Ultimately, not a large deal, but when these moments of biking, running, and simply just forgetting to track your workout, it creates a convenience feature that I personally longed for on any of my other wearable devices. I'm just glad this feature is finally coming to other devices in the long run, because it is a very useful tool that makes it enjoyable to have. And I think other individuals will get familiarized with this feature very quick. And if they do decide to switch to a different watch, if it's not a Samsung at the moment, I think they're going to long for that feature as well. As someone who changes my watches out pretty quickly, having auto track workouts is huge, and I am so glad that it's on the Pixel Watch 4. And then thirdly, this is arguably the most important feature I think on the Pixel Watch 4, and the reason that I made the introduction to this video, and it is called Raise to Talk. Raise to Talk is truly game changing on how to utilize the smartwatch, as it understands the orientation of your wrist and gives you Gemini on quick command for seamless tasks. It truly gives Jarvis vibes, as there's quite a lot of scenarios where I can't always use the Hey G word command in loud environments, or care to do so on the extra steps of having to press a action button on my wrist. This feature has been extremely useful for myself and elevates my smartwatch experience to a new level. Although on the initial setup, I did have some issues of it just not recognizing my voice. The command would pop up, but it wouldn't listen to me. I did have to go into the settings and turn up the voice sensitivity. But ever since then, it has been flawless and quick and seamless, and it has changed my life in terms of the actions that I would typically have to search for or end up just ultimately pulling out my phone. I no longer have to do that on the Pixel Watch 4, and it's saving me minutes and minutes a day. Not something huge, but like I said, it's a convenience feature that really goes a long way ultimately throughout the life of its watch. I don't know if this feature is going to be exclusive to the Snapdragon W5 Gen 2 processor, but I do hope it comes to older devices, as it's such a huge deal. Even seeing this on a Galaxy Watch wouldn't be out of the ordinary, considering it's already running Gemini, so hopefully it does make its way to other devices as well, as it's really just the orientation of your wrist that makes it pop up. So hopefully Google is a little generous and rolls this out to other devices, and hopefully it comes to anything on Wear OS as well, as I truly think it elevates the smartwatch experience. And then lastly, in terms of performance, one key feature that I did want to point out that the Pixel Watch 4 now has is dual frequency GPS. This is huge for anyone who commutes around the city. Let's say Chicago, for experience, a lot of buildings, a lot of skylines that do kind of interfere with the GPS. So having dual frequency really does elevate the experience as well, and gives those people more accurate tracking when roaming difficult areas. All right, now let's talk about the battery. So the Pixel Watch 4 has a 459 milliamp hour battery, which is a 9% increase from last year's model. The Pixel Watch 4 41 millimeter has a 327 milliamp hour battery, which is going to be a 7% increase of last year's. Ultimately, that means you can get up to 30 hours on the 41 millimeter device and up to 40 hours on the 45 millimeter device. As a smartwatch, I feel like the Pixel Watch 4 is hitting that sweet spot of obtaining the ideal battery life. Obviously, the more battery, the better. But from a smartwatch perspective, I can finally say I'm comfortable with the battery, and if it dies, that's more of a me problem than the watch. Yes, I do wear my watch to sleep, so I do utilize sleep tracking, but to further complement the battery life, the charger can top off rather quickly. On the new charging dock, it can charge your device from 0 to 50 in simply 15 minutes. And about 80% in half an hour. However, the charger is more of a welcome due to the convenience. Once again, convenience is just the cherry on the pie with the Pixel Watch 4. The previous charger was particularly not my favorite due to how often magnets wouldn't align, leaving you having to double check every single time it was placed on the charger. I physically had PTSD of putting my watch on the charger and waking up the next day to only find out it was dead, just because the magnet alignment on the Pixel Watch 3 was so terrible. So the new charger, ironically, is one of the bigger upgrades about this watch, and not to mention it does kind of clean up the aesthetic department as well, because it's just 2 pins on the left hand side next to the speaker, which looks relatively normal compared to the weird 4-pin array that was on the back of the watch. And that being said, if you do have a chain link band like as I do, for example, bands that don't undo themselves, it is very beneficial for that as well, because now you don't have to hassle your way around the charger to fit it on with the band on there. So ironically, one of the bigger and better upgrades. We just have to hope that Google sticks with this charger, as they've went through 3 different types of chargers within 3 years. So fingers crossed this is the one Google finally decides to stay on. That way we don't have to keep purchasing separate chargers every time we want to get a new watch. Lastly, when it comes to software, I do want to talk about Wear OS 6 with Android Expressive on the Pixel Watch 4. So, Material 3 Expressive is built into Wear OS, giving a fun aesthetic and bringing the watch more aligned with the phone, while also implementing a color theme just like the phones, making you have that expressive moniker in your watch as well. One fun fact to note, I figured that whatever my phone colors were going to be would be my watch colors. However, it is actually a separate engine, so you can have different colors on your phone software and different color on your watch software. So it does give you that freedom to choose depending on what you want to do, which realistically is going to be more beneficial. However, this Wear OS color theming engine truly does stand out compared to its competitors. Personally, I like it a lot with all of the shapes and animations changing as you scroll through the OS. That really does give it a sense of life, with the haptics only complementing the entire experience. You really do get a true feel of Google Material U, and that really comes down to if you like that or if you don't. From my looks of it, it looks like you can't avoid it. So if you are someone who doesn't particularly like the software aesthetic that Google's going for, maybe the Pixel Watch isn't going to be for you going forward. But as someone who does truly appreciate the attention to detail and the software and the cool shapes and the Material Expressive and the haptic feedback, I think it's a really good direction, and it does really truly make it feel connected to the phone, like if it was the same device. It really makes the watch very poppy and fun, and I wouldn't want it any other way. However, one thing is different, and I don't know if this is going to be a direction that Google is going to be going into further to better optimize their Pixel experience. But as of making this video, Google actually pulled the Alarm application out of the Play Store and only made it exclusive to Pixel watches, which is a weird direction that Google's going, considering the alarm clock is kind of like the default in a lot of phones. So we'll see where that story continues, but be advised. So my final verdict: refinement, refinement, refinement. Google is really optimizing their watch, from the software to the hardware and everything in between. It's a great watch. I really am a fan of the dome display. I'm a fan of the brighter display, as someone who really does go out and works out all the time in Texas. Very bright state, just a heads up. But like I said, the bigger feature for me was Raise to Talk. That is a game changer for someone like me, as someone who's always on the go and having to do timers and quick actions and reply to a message. This has been a huge feature for me, and I love the Pixel Watch 4 for that reason. I still hope one day that they will make like a Pro or Ultra series that gives it more protection, as I do ride my bike a lot and I scratched the crap out of my Pixel Watch 3. So now it being domed is great and all, but it's only going to cause more scratches. So long run, future wise, once this refinement kind of slows down and they want to go to more of a Pro series, I really hope they make a more durable watch for someone outdoorsy like myself. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Give me some tips down in the comments on how I can improve these videos for you. But until then, peace.